Welcome back to Coast, everyone. The mobster, formerly known as Tony Nastasi, says his life was sort of like a Scorsese movie. And I'll tell you, I've looked into it myself, and he's not exaggerating. There's a photo I saw of Tony with a kindly, elderly-looking gentleman in the background, taken in the early 50s, I guess. That man, his name is Albert Anastasia. If you're a mafia buff, as I am, you would recognize that name as the name of the boss of Murder Incorporated, the infamous mafia organization that rubbed out a lot of people years ago. That was the guy who helped Tony early in his life, helped his father. There are some other mob figures that he came to know fairly well, Crazy Joe Gallo. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Tony, who is calling in from an undisclosed location tonight. I think you're going to enjoy this. I'm George Knapp on Coast to Coast AM. Welcome back, everyone. I'm George Knapp on Coast to Coast AM. I'm going to welcome now the guest formerly known as Tony Nastasi. Tony, you there?
I'm here, George.
Now, of course, that's not your name anymore, and you can't say where you live. Is that right?
I'd rather not, George.
Well, why is that? I mean, is there somebody out there who would do you harm if they could find you?
Well, there's a few, yeah. Yeah, there's a few I can think of off the top of my head, yeah.
Because of your cooperation with the FBI?
Yeah, that and other things, too.
Yeah. Why don't we start at the beginning? I just mentioned in the tease the Albert Anastasia photo of you as a youngster with the boss of Murder Incorporated. What role did he play early in your life?
Well, he helped my father. I was adopted, and at that time my father was a single guy, and this was in the early 50s, and it was unheard of for a single guy to, adopt a baby, It was something they just didn't permit, And he put my father in with the right lawyer who had the right zing in with the right judge, and money was exchanged, and everybody got happy. And he got me. He got to adopt me.
So did you know him as a kid growing up?
I don't remember him. I took photos with him, as you saw. I don't remember him. No.
Was your father a mobster?
I was still a little guy when he was when they annihilated him down in the Park Sheridan Hotel. So, that was in the late 50s, I believe, around 57, I think, or 56.
Was your family, were they involved in organized crime to some extent?
Yeah, but not my father's side of the family. He didn't. He was pretty much a hard-working guy, and he didn't really want no part of that,
So he got a favor from Albert Anastasia.
Yeah, he got a favor. Yeah, sort of a favor.
And you, as growing up, and please speak up, Tony. We're having a hard time hearing you. But
all right, how's that?
I think that's better.
Okay.
Growing up, though, were you a mob kid, or did there come a point where you decided you were interested in joining these guys?
Well, it actually happened by accident. All right. I wound up in the car service business. We had a bunch of cars. We were like private taxi cab service. And what happened is it wasn't doing that well. And I borrowed money at that time from a relative, and it was starting to sink a little bit. And I didn't want to have my relative stuck, for the money. I didn't want to look like a failure then. So I ran into a couple of guys, because where the car service business was a pretty much hooked up area, a lot of wise guys in the area. And the guy knew I was having a little bit of problems, and he told me about, about something they were, getting involved in. He liked me, he trusted me. And it was a payroll heist at a furrier in Long Island City. And then I met the people who were involved, and, we wound up going there. And, in fact, I can remember it's the first time I ever did anything wrong. And as I was going into, they finally got the window open. As I was going in, they pried back the bars, and I was like the second one in. And I remember stopping like halfway through the window, and like the shakes came over me. So the guy behind me, who later on he became like my mentor, and I was his protege, he said to me, he says, "Too late to tremble now, kid." And he pushed me through the window. And that was the start of it all.
What was the score there?
That score was almost $80,000.
And were you a made member later, or just an associate, or how would you characterize yourself?
That's something I was on the list, but I kept avoiding it. All right, that's something that you did not want to do because once nobody really wants to climb the ladder anymore, Judge. Everybody's afraid of the ladder. Nobody wants to be the boss anymore, Judge.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems like
you don't want to be on your way up. If you're under somebody's wing. All right, and you're with somebody, associated with somebody, what they would say in the streets are, you're with so-and-so, you're with this guy, and that was good enough because that alone gave you the right to earn in the streets. You know what I'm saying? You had an overseer, you had somebody over you, had somebody that watched over you. Of course, you were, making money for him too. You were an earner.
So being a made member, that puts a bullseye on your back, right?
Pretty much so, George. You can have everything without having that moniker stuck on you, because then that's when the feds and everybody start getting interested in you. They like to keep a tally of family members. I mean, they have charts on their walls, that look like a pyramid from the top to the bottom. Associates, they sort of fall through the cracks. Guys that are with people, they don't really care about them that much.
We'll come back to your early days, including Crazy Joe Gallo in a second. But I want to come up to modern times here for just a couple of minutes and to talk about what's left of the mafia. I mean, you're in hiding. You're basically underground. You don't want to be found. You're not in the government witness protection program. We'll talk about the reason for that. But you don't want to be found. So obviously there's something left of the mafia. And a couple of weeks ago, I saw stories. You saw them as well about the big roundup. 50, 60 guys busted in New York. And I'll tell you, frankly, I was thinking to myself, well, how are there even 50 or 60 mobsters left? I mean, what is left of these guys?
Are you coming back, or you want that answer now?
No, I want to, yeah.
The answer is you got renegades out there. Yeah, it's not what it was. It is not what it is anymore. I mean, you have renegades. You have small crews running around out there. You still have guys that are tight with guys, but they're still out there. They're still doing damage. They can still do harm, Judge.
And are they still?
They're not as organized as they once were. No, they're split apart in a lot of ways. They've been taken down. They've been downsized, but they're still out there. They're still out there. And all they have to do is forget about them for a little while, and they'll grow. They'll multiply like rabbits, Judge.
And are there still 5 families in New York?
They'd like you to think there isn't. There are still remnants, George, if I can put it to you that way. There are still remnants. Some guys went over to other crews, guys combined, they ran. They ran to different crews, made other crews stronger, when the feds came in, OCCP came in and demolished certain crews, then they wound up scattering. Some guys went this way, some guys went that way, Imagine a bunch of little clubs, and the club gets shut down, so they go and join another club, George.
I've covered organized crime stuff in Las Vegas here for a lot of years, and it really is not the way it used to be, where you had big-time mobsters running casinos, things of that sort. I think they're probably...
No, well, they tend to do that, George. They tend to screw things up. They get to the top of the heap, and when they're there, they tend to destroy themselves, and that's been the history.
Well, there are some remnants of those guys still around, and a lot of their friends who are still in the casino industry, but... on the streets, you'd have to say that.
So they don't go in through the front door now, George. They go in through the back door. So what's the difference?
On the streets, though, you have all these other organized crime groups, Asian groups and Russians and things like that
Right.
have they taken over the same turf?
Yeah, they sort of took over things that other people were afraid to take over, that they dabbled in, but they were afraid to go full blast into, let's say, like the drug business, and things like that. I mean, guys did dabble in it, you know what I mean? And they did make money from it, I'm talking, guys on my side of the fence, they did do it. They moved it. They would deny they did it, but they did do it. But they didn't go as big with it, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you get the Asians, they don't care. They'll let you know. I mean, they, or even the Colombians, they put their marks on the bricks of cocaine, too, to let you know where it's coming from. So, they don't care. They're right out there. They took over. They took over full blast. Whereas, they probably did overcome the organized crime guys, the families, as you would say. They probably did overcome them because guys did not. They just wanted to dabble. They didn't want to push. They didn't want to push. They were happy with what they made, and they didn't want to go